may have accidentally entered another horse girl era because of my off-the-grid Let's Play. I've been playing in this save where I'm trying to live completely off the land, and I've got a ton of animals and horses and things, and it's sort of awakened this new love for Horse Ranch again. I keep going through phases with that pack where it becomes my like absolute favorite thing in the entirety of The Sims 4. I really didn't expect to like it as much as I do, but it's honestly one of the best packs, I think. And so today I want to try to use businesses and hobbies and put together some kind of business that focuses around Horse Ranch. The big picture idea is a petting zoo, but I think that's kind of the wrong word for it. Essentially, I want to charge people to come to my farm and like take care of my animals and tend to my crops for me. You will pay me for the opportunity to like clean my goat and weed my plants. I realize that sounds really weird, but honestly, having tested this a bunch, it is an extremely effective tool for running a ranch in The Sims 4. If you've played with Horse Ranch at all, you'll know that it's kind of difficult to maintain everything on your farm, especially when you have a big lot like this. Like, we're on a 64 by 64 lot. My Sim's probably gonna have like 4 horses. I'd like to have a bunch of chickens. I'm gonna have a bunch of mini goats and mini sheep. Then you add in all of the farm stuff, and it's honestly very difficult to keep up with the maintenance of a place like this. There's just not enough time in the day to properly attend to all of the animals and to the farm and to get everything done successfully. So the beauty of running it as a business is that you can have the customers come in. You'll set one of the business activities to be tend to the animals, and they'll come here, they'll feed your goat, they'll clean the goat, they'll play with it, they'll talk to your chickens for you, they'll feed them for free. So you're not buying any animal feed. In fact, they're paying you to be the ones feeding the animals. They'll also come in and like water your crops, they'll weed the crops. You can set it so they won't harvest them too. You can also set it to have them tend to the garden, and you can make it so that they don't harvest any of the crops. So they'll just come in and water and weed them, they'll spray for the bugs, but they won't take any of the grown crops. So you can have them doing all the work, caring for them, and then you can harvest at the end and sell them and make all of the money. It's kind of like hiring a ranch hand, except the people pay you for the chance to do it. And you can just let the business run while you're living at home, working on your farm. It's really useful. So if you're trying to play with Horse Ranch, honestly, I would highly recommend trying this as an option if you also have businesses and hobbies. But hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of what we're trying to achieve here. We're on the big 64 by 64 lot in Chestnut Ridge, which is the world that comes with Horse Ranch. And I'm trying to lay this out as though it's a farm, a working farm that you can come and visit with your Sims, but more importantly, as a farm that you can run and have other people do the work for you, essentially. So I've done a bunch of the layout now at this point of the speed build, so I'm gonna kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at. And it's gonna get a little bit confusing because I don't do the terrain paint until the absolute last thing, because I don't trust the Sims 4's terrain paint because it glitches so often and deletes itself. So I've learned my lesson and I always do it last, but that means you can't see the pathway or anything. So you're gonna have to visualize the path in your head going through the big middle open space. The first thing we have is this giant barn on the left side of the lot. This barn is where we're gonna have classrooms and stuff. So I wanna be able to teach horse riding classes, handiness classes, you know, things like that. So we're gonna have a big classroom downstairs. There's a bar in there in this building. We also have like some seating areas for your Sims to come and visit. And then on the upstairs, there's a small apartment for the family who runs this business. If you were trying to play on a lot like this, you might prefer to have more space to be like personal for just your Sims. But for me, I didn't really care about the Sims house. I cared about the farm. So I made their apartment kind of tiny. Next, kind of across from the barn, what I'm working on right now is basically a little bit of a gift shop. I want to have a place that we can have some sales tables and like sell the crops that we're growing, sell eggs, sell milk, you know, that kind of thing. So we have a tiny little store on property in there. And there's 2 fenced in sections that are small on either side of the store. One is for the chickens, one is for the goats and the sheep. So we'll fill that out with the coop and stuff later on, and you'll kind of be able to see it a little bit more, but that's what those big empty fenced in areas are for. In the way back, we have another barn, but it's more like a stable for the horses. So there's an indoor section and an outdoor section for these horses. There's enough space for 6 horse beds in here, which you probably don't actually need for your Sim if you're gonna play on this lot, but one of the things that I would recommend turning on as a business activity is for horses to play and learn. And you can also set horses as one of the the target customers. So that means that people will bring their horses with them when they come here. And it kind of has like a horse training school type of energy. I really wanted to be able to make a horse school as like the entire lot type, but I feel like it just doesn't work quite right because you can't really rely on the other people to participate. The horses will come and the horses will like autonomously jump the horse jumps, but the Sims won't ride them autonomously on your lot. So I tried to expand upon that idea and put all the other animals too, hence why I kind of called it a petting zoo instead of calling it like a farm. I don't know. This is a very multi-purpose lot. There's a lot going on here, so it's not really just one thing. And then last, over here on the side, kind of near to the barn, there's like a little farm section outside plus a greenhouse inside. So you can kind of see that directly behind where this bathroom is. I always try to explain what's going on as we do these speed builds, but I feel like it's a little bit hard to follow because it's like speeding up so much and just zooming around with the cameras. But don't worry, at the end of this, I'm gonna go back in a game and give you a real-time tour. So it'll be a little bit easier to figure out what's going on. And also as we work on this, it'll kind of come together and you'll get a better idea for it. Right now, we're trying to figure out the floor plan for the inside of this barn area. This was a real pain for me. I honestly didn't really quite know how I wanted to do it. It isn't actually that big, and I feel like I had a long list of things that I wanted to include inside. The main thing was that I really, really wanted to have classrooms, and I wanted to kind of play test it as well and make sure the classes actually worked, because that was kind of the whole point of this lot, is I wanted your Sims to be able to come here and take a bunch of different farming-related skill activity classes. So that one inside of the building is fully functional for horse riding, cross stitch, and handiness classes. And then outside in the greenhouse, I have a second whiteboard, and that one is functional for gardening classes. I think it's a good mix of classes for this place, and it's just so weird how it works because some of the classes have required objects and other ones don't. Like, you don't need to have any specific items to teach a horse riding class, you just need the whiteboard. There's not like any special objects that have to be in the room. The handiness classes have to have 3 of the woodworking tables. The cross stitching class only needs to have 1 of those little cross stitch bins. So I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know why it works like that, but it does, and I tested it, so it's fine. The classes are a very cool feature of Businesses and Hobbies, but they do have their moments of being a little bit strange. Like, they don't exactly work quite how I would like them to. They're like fine, and they're a little bit repetitive, but it's okay because they are very useful for skill building. Like, it's a nice tool to have, even if they don't exactly work how I would wish. But while we're sat here just trying to figure out floor plans and readjusting windows, I suppose now is maybe a good time for a little life update. I tend to use these speed builds in that way. I just kind of yap for 30 minutes in these videos. My first life update is that I cut my hair this week, and this is probably the worst haircut I've given myself in the last like 2 years. So I think it looks okay from the front. You don't need to see the back. Dan helped me fix it, but it's not like my finest work this time. Personally, I don't really care that much. Like, I've been cutting my own hair for like 5 years now, since COVID, so I've grown accustomed to it being not great. I just need it to be this length because it starts to bother me so much when it gets longer, and that happens quick when my hair is this short. So anyway, I only mention that because if you're like, Kayla, your hair looks kind of weird, don't be rude. I did it myself, and I'm not the best. So that's not the only thing that I'm not the best at that I've been working on this week. I finished my second quilt this weekend. I've gotten really into sewing in the past few months. I bought a sewing machine in like early December, and I've been sewing a lot. I've made a bunch of bags and like book sleeves and stuff, mostly smaller things, but I have now made 2 quilts. Both, I would say, are fine to not good. I'm being very critical of myself. I'm just not the best at sewing perfectly straight lines yet, which means that sometimes the corners don't match up quite perfectly on my quilts, and that's normal. I look at them and I'm like, oh, I'm so stupid, I messed it up. But when you look at it from afar, or like if anybody else looks at it, they wouldn't notice. It's just one of those things that because I made it and I spent hours making it, I stare at it and I immediately see all the mistakes. But I am proud of myself for completing both of these quilts. The first one was for me, and it was definitely worse. And that's okay because it's just for me. The second one is like a toddler-sized quilt, and I made it for my cousin's baby. I don't think that they're watching this, so I can probably talk about it and it's fine because I didn't tell them about it yet. But one of my cousins is having a baby in a couple of months, and so I wanted to make the baby a quilt, and they have another baby that was born a couple years ago, so I'm gonna make one for that baby as well and then send both of the quilts at the same time. I just haven't finished the second one yet. And let me tell you, it is a lot easier to make a baby a quilt than to make an adult a quilt. When they are smaller, it is significantly easier to manage. It's just very hard to maneuver all that fabric in my like small little at-home sewing machine. I don't know how people do it with like big quilts and stuff. You quilters are like magicians, let me tell you. But seriously, sewing has been such a fun and like therapeutic hobby for me. It's nice to have something that I can kind of get lost in a little bit, because you can't really be thinking that much when you're trying to sew. You got too much to focus on. So I sit at my little desk, I put an audiobook on, and I sew. And it's like creative, and I feel proud of myself when I complete something. I really, really have been liking doing it, especially the past like few weeks. My family's dog passed away a couple weeks ago. I don't know why I'm talking about this in a YouTube video again. I know it's like very unpleasant, and I'm sorry, but honestly, I have not been handling it well. Like I have been so emotional and just so sad, and I've been like pouring myself into this sewing machine, and it's been really nice to have. But anyway, back to the build for a second, because if you've been watching this, you probably noticed that there has been a lot of change that has happened in this barn in the past few minutes, because I changed and deleted and then changed and then deleted the top of the barn like 4 times. It took me so long to figure out how exactly I wanted to lay out this space. I just felt like what I had originally was kind of ugly, so I kept changing my mind. This is the final shape that we end up going with, and this really long, skinny top floor is where we're gonna have the apartment. So this is what's gonna belong to the Sims for their house. It's just 2 bedrooms, it's not very big, but it does work nicely. And now we are diving into landscaping. And let me tell you, I spent over an hour in real life landscaping this build, maybe even closer to 2 hours. This was a long one, this build to finish. Obviously it's a 64 by 64 lot, so it's gonna take a long time, but it was quite the process. So if you happen to be one of the unlucky folks who watched me do this live, I'm so sorry. You went through a lot watching me, but I did live stream this first over on my Twitch channel. My name is just lilsimsie on Twitch if you wanna go back and watch anything there, or maybe catch me live next time. I also post all of my live streams onto my second channel called More Simsie on YouTube. I post the full thing as a YouTube video afterward. And you might have just seen that I put some terrain paint back, even though I was saying I'm not gonna do any terrain paint. That's just because I was trying to visualize like where it would go. I really don't like to put all the effort of putting the actual terrain paint in until the build is finished, but it helps me to visualize it when I look at where the path is gonna be, so I can start putting bushes in around the path, kinda. It's such an annoying backwards way to have to build, and I wish I didn't have to do it like this, but the terrain paint has deleted itself so many times in my gameplay that I just can't. I have to be so careful about this, because the number of times I've put all this effort into like detailed, layered terrain paint that takes so long, and then I reopen my game the next day and it's just gone. Because if you aren't familiar, the bug is basically that the terrain paint deletes itself sometimes upon lot reload. Emphasis on sometimes, because it doesn't always happen, but sometimes when you reload into the lot from Manage Worlds, it'll just have no terrain paint left. And this has happened to me maybe 20 times over the past few years. It happened to me like 1 month ago, so it's never gone away, this bug. And especially on a build like this, I have reloaded the lot multiple times because it's been multiple days that I worked on it. So I built it one day, closed my game, came back the next day to finish it, you know? So there were multiple chances for it to delete itself, and I just really didn't want that to happen. So that's why I'm being so weird about it. That's not the only terrain paint glitch. I've also had issues sometimes where it deletes itself when you place another terrain paint down. This one is especially weird, but imagine you've done like all of one color of terrain paint and you go to get a second color, because sometimes I'll put like a lighter dirt in the middle of a path and then trim the outside edges with a darker dirt terrain paint. So I've placed all the lighter dirt, and then I get the darker dirt color to start painting that on top, and it just deletes the entire thing. I click one time and it's gone. And then the other less bad terrain paint glitch is that sometimes when you place stuff off the gallery, it places the terrain paint in the wrong spot. You might have seen this before when you download builds, but like maybe the terrain paint looks like it's shifted over to the left a tiny bit. That's a pretty common issue as well. That happens to me almost every time I get something off the gallery. It's especially obvious in places like this, because you'll see later on, I put terrain paint underneath the big horse jumps. So it's painted specifically in between the lines. And then maybe if you get it off the gallery, you'll see it's like outside of the lines, but just to the left a little bit. Trust me, it was fine when I uploaded it. It's just that sometimes when you download it, it doesn't work quite right. So I don't know if that's a gallery bug, if it's a terrain paint thing, but there's a few issues with terrain paint in The Sims 4. And if you have not had this happen to you, consider yourself lucky, because whenever I talk about it, people are like, well, that doesn't happen to me. Don't jinx it. Don't say that too loud. If the game hears you, it might decide to punish you. So be careful. And honestly, I don't understand how it's still happening. It's literally been like 6 years. this has been happening for, and they still haven't fixed it. They have bug reports for it, and they still haven't fixed it. But anyway, you can see I've made a lot of progress now with the landscaping. This is kind of like my standard method for landscaping, and I'm sorry because I have mentioned this before, but I'm gonna kind of walk you through it real quick, because you'll see that I did it in a very specific order. The first thing that I went through and added was like those low-lying bushes. That's why there's a bunch of empty spaces with just like bushes kind of in a corner. I went through and I got the debug horse ranch bushes and put those down everywhere I knew I wanted to have landscaping. And then I went and got the debug horse ranch bigger bushes and I put those in all of those spaces too. And I also use them in a variety of sizes, like sizing some down, leaving some regular. And then I went through and put some of those purple bushes. These are like lavender bushes from Outdoor Retreat. And I put those in all kinds of places, same thing, using varieties of sizes and stuff. And then lastly, I went and put a bunch of rocks, also debug rocks, and I filled those in around the outside to fill in some extra empty space. That's kind of my method with landscaping, is to layer it like that, where I'll start with the smallest thing, kind of as like a trim of where the plants are gonna go, and then I put the biggest stuff in to take up the most space, and then fill in with medium stuff in the extra areas. That's not like the end-all be-all only way to landscape, but that's the way that makes the most sense to me, and it's what I found easiest over the past few years trying to figure out how to best do it in The Sims 4. And I know that landscaping is kind of difficult and a little bit intimidating to a lot of people, so I like to offer some advice when I can. I think it's especially helpful on giant lots like this because it is so intimidating to think about trying to landscape a 64 by 64 lot. There's just so much space. So when I look at this blank lot and I'm like, oh my God, where am I even going to begin? It's really scary. And that's why I think it's so helpful to start with those smaller plants and like fill in the areas where I think it needs landscaping, because then you can kind of top-down overview look at it and visualize it a little bit better. And we are almost done with landscaping, I promise. I know it's taken up a big chunk of the build, but it was a big chunk of the lot, so it took a long time to finish it. Every time I do a 64 by 64 lot, I think, you know what? This is enough. Like, I don't need to do this anymore. And then I go straight back and I do it again. But it turns out so nice every time. It's just kind of intimidating. This next thing that we're working on is placing all of the mini goats and mini sheep. And I realize this is so absurd. But now you can kind of see a little bit better what I mean by this being the goat and sheep section of the petting zoo. So I've got like a little bit of a stable there in the back corner. And then I went into like the ranch menu and I bought one of every color of the goats and sheep, and then I placed them all in this area. I locked the gate so they won't be able to come and go, but they'll stay in this little section. And I also added some of the like grasses in there so they can eat. And you'll be pleased or maybe horrified to know that on the gallery, it uploads with the goats and sheep because they're technically objects in game. So when you download this off the gallery, it will have all of them there, just like exactly as they are placed right now. So it's petting zoo, goats and sheep included. And then in this backspace, we're finally moving on to some of the interiors now. This is the inside of that barn space. So this is where the horses are going to live. There's also a bathroom for humans back there, and I've got some clutter decor, things like the saddles and all of that sort of stuff. I'll be honest, I had to do some research to figure out what the inside of a stable would look like, because I must admit, I am not that well versed in horses. In real life, I have no clue what a stable looks like inside. So I was trying to Google, like, what does the floor look like? What, you know, all of this stuff. From my research, it seems like the wood is maybe not the most realistic, but I don't really care because I think it looks nicer. Oftentimes these kind of places will have like concrete slabs as the floor, but I don't know, I just didn't want to do that. It's not so cute to have a concrete slab. I also just put the pond together and added some cute clutter and more landscaping around it. And now we're moving inside to the little gift shop area. So in this gift shop, I put the sales table that comes from Businesses and Hobbies. That's the one where you can like host a yard sale event. It's kind of the same as like the Home Chef Hustle table or the table that comes from Eco Lifestyle and the one that comes in Crystal Creations. Same thing, same gameplay, just different swatches. And then I also put some bigger shelves and like some of the get to work shelves that kind of look like they have seeds on them. Those are just regular old sales shelves. So you don't need to do anything to sell on those. You can just put items there and they'll be set for sale. You don't have to like check out any Sims or anything. They'll just come and take them and pay you. That is where I would put your produce. So if you were trying to operate this as a farm for real in game, I'd be like selling my watermelons on those shelves. I did put a couple of big barrels and stuff in this building, but I don't actually have any nectar on this lot on purpose. I was trying to focus more on the farm stuff than on the nectar making stuff, because I actually built a fully separate vineyard lot type, which I'm gonna probably post on YouTube in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to post them too close together because they are kind of similar stylistically, because it's a lot of this like log cabin-y looking stuff from Horse Ranch, but I did build an entire vineyard dedicated for like winemaking classes and tasting and selling it. So I didn't put any of that on here. I focused instead on the farm and less on the nectar for this space. I actually thought about it. I thought about adding it in, and then I was like, oh, we already have so many business activities. Like, we already have this lot basically doing everything. So we can't add even more than what it already has. So I canceled the idea. I put a few like horse trophies and various things around in this building, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted it to look like. I honestly struggled a lot with the color scheme in there, but I figured it was okay if it looked kind of old, you know? And then this next part, we're starting with the classroom now. That's inside of the main barn, like the main, it's almost like a community center sort of situation. The classroom has the whiteboard. I put a table in there. You don't actually need to have a desk inside of these rooms, but it feels like it would be weird if it didn't have one. So I put a desk in there. At this point, I didn't realize that I needed to have 3 of the woodworking tables, so I only have 2, but I ended up adding a 3rd woodworking table outside, and it's still within the map of what functions for the whiteboard, so it works okay still. And speaking of map of what functions for the whiteboard, if you see any weird gray lines on the ground, like in that main big empty room right now, and you're like, what the heck is that? Don't worry, it is just like a basically invisible guide for the whiteboard that shows you the area that the items will be able to be affected by it. If you're trying to make a classroom like a painting classroom, basically you have to put the easels within that big square for it to function. It's a little bit confusing because it actually really only works inside of a room sometimes. But the items, if they're outside of the room and just within the square, it still works. It's a little bit backwards. I don't really get it, but whatever. That's what it's supposed to do though. That's why it's there. And it only is visible in build modes. When I go into live mode and like unpause the game, you won't see that guide anymore. It's just there to help you in build mode. Kind of like how if you've ever played with Spa Day, there's like those little Spa Day instructor mats, and one of them has like a huge green area that it affects. It's kind of like that, but this is a little bit better done because you can see it more easily. Also, if you've seen the Party Essentials kit, there's like that invisible dance floor for the ground. This is basically the exact same thing as that, where it's just like an invisible square and you only see it in build mode, but the gameplay affects the whole square area. I wanted to clarify that because when I built this, I got a lot of questions about it. I think people would come into my stream and be like, oh my God, what's that weird rectangle? Like, are you gonna fix it? Thinking it was like a glitch or something, but it's not. It's supposed to be there. Aside from that though, we also have a small living room area and also a few different picnic tables in that main building. I was kind of picturing your Sims being able to like come and sit and have dinner with their family. It's not quite a restaurant, but I think you might like bring a sandwich to this place, like pack a lunch or something. There is also a bar, and I put the banquet table in there. We have that new base game buffet table that's long and skinny from the last event. So oops, my headphones. So I put that in there too. So you could get food here if you wanted to. And now at this point, we're kind of getting to that weird point of the build where I'm just jumping around so much, trying to figure out last minute details. Like, we spent the first half of the build trying to figure out the layout. So I built a lot of stuff and then half furnished it all just to see like, hey, does this stuff fit? Does it work? Does it look nice? And now we're going back and doing the other half of the furnishing and like putting in the rest of the decor and figuring out all of those little things. I know it's kind of a weird way to build. It's like a weird order to build stuff in, but it really helps me for lots this big. I think half the battle of this lot was just figuring out where everything was gonna be placed, you know? And that's why it took me so long and we did so much half furnishing in the beginning. And now we're going back inside to the main building and we're gonna work on decorating the apartment that's upstairs above the barn. Like I said before, it's only a small apartment. It's just the 2 bedrooms. It has 1 bathroom. It also has a little kitchen, and the kitchen was probably the hardest part because it's kind of a weird shape. You can see I was trying to sneak it into this kind of weird little corner nook. There's a little dining table and a small living room area as well, and I made some weird color scheme choices. For a second there, I was thinking about using that ugly tile, but I did get rid of it, don't worry. I changed my mind, I wouldn't put you through that. So just to kind of clarify again, this is the only space of this lot that I would set up as being residential. The rest of it would be public space. I guess this and also the staircase hallway that's downstairs, but I'll show you that when we do the tour at the end. And if you wanted to play here, but like maybe readjust it so that you could have the whole place be your house and not be a business, you could also just edit the barn to all be one house. You could do a big renovation and have it be like a big house in this barn area and put like a bigger kitchen, bigger living room, maybe an office downstairs instead of all of the classroom stuff. Because you could use this place as an entirely residential lot if you wanted to. I just think that it's kind of fun to make other people work for me. So that's why I've set it up as a business instead. Maybe fun's the wrong word. It's almost like necessary to make the other Sims do the work for you. Because like I was saying, it's so hard to maintain a farm this big with just your household. I've been playing it a lot kind of like this in my off the grid challenge, like I was saying in the beginning of the video. And I'll link the playlist of that down below in case you want to go back and watch it, because it actually is kind of fun. But in that save, I have 2 adults, I have a kid, and I also have a teen that just aged up. And I've hired a ranch hand, thankfully. And honestly, I don't think that I could be maintaining the farm without the help of the business at this point. Granted, I have like 10 chickens, which isn't helping, but there's just too much going on. I'm trying to like make sure I fix the wind turbine, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing laundry by hand, and I have to grow all my own food, and I'm trying to catch a fish to eat for dinner, and like I also have to take care of the cow and the llama, and it's just so much work. It's so much work. I also didn't even put cows or llamas on this lot. I thought about it, but then when I put the barns down, the cows and the llamas are from cottage living, so are the chickens. And the problem is they only have the one barn, and it's very like stone, and it doesn't really match the vibes of all the stuff on this lot. Plus, this is gonna sound weird, but I didn't really have enough space. I know it's a 64 by 64 lot, but like honestly, I tried, but it just didn't really fit anywhere. So I didn't put a cow on this place. I think in hindsight, I maybe kind of wish that I had, but I am still happy with how everything looks. Like I like the look of this place. I think it's cute. So I don't really regret what I have done. It's just one of those things that maybe would have been cool if we had added. I was also trying to primarily use just horse ranch and cottage living on this lot. I did add a few other things, like we have the outdoor retreat plants. You'll see I have a little bit of laundry day in here too, but this is definitely a much more limited pack build than a lot of the stuff that I do on this channel. I sometimes will use like 30 packs in a build. This one's more like 6 packs, I think, but we'll check when we get to the end. And this is actually a good time. I want you in the comments to try and guess how much this build costs. Don't check, that's cheating. Type your comment right now. How much do you think the finished product costs? I love to play this game when I'm building because honestly, I don't even know a lot of the time. I'll make like a big 7-bedroom house and I'm trying to think about it and I'm like, maybe it's like 200K. So think big picture. How much do you think the lot costs? I'll tell you now, I was a little bit surprised. I think it costs less than I expected it to because it is a very big lot, but it doesn't actually have that much furniture. A lot of the stuff on it is landscaping. There's a lot of open space. So it isn't really as pricey as it might initially seem, but it's definitely not cheap. It's still a 64 by 64 lot. But now at this point, we're going through and doing the actual finishing touches. So I'm adding in the terrain paint finally. You can see this is like what really brings it all together once we get this terrain paint in. I also put some benches and like some last minute little details around the place. I was so relieved when I finally added this terrain paint in. Also, I'm just now noticing that Trashly is at the front door. Trashly has just stood there trying to get into the business. I don't know about that one. I still haven't gotten over Trashly making me spend multiple hours trying to finish the collection of those art prints when I played with the pack for the first time, but I do have love for Trashly. It's just maybe like a weird love-hate thing. I do like that Trashly just shows up and stands at your house like that though. It's kind of cool. But anyway, this is the last minute thing. So we're just putting all of this terrain paint down. You'll see that I'm starting with the one color, and then we're gonna go back at the end and we're gonna layer it with a second darker color. And I like how that gives it a little bit more dimension. This is kind of a terrain paint tip as well. And I'm no painter. I also don't think that I'm like the best at terrain paint, but I don't think that I'm bad at it. So hopefully this is kind of helpful to you. The first color is like the lighter horse ranch terrain paint color. And the second one is the darker horse ranch terrain paint color. And I just put that darker color underneath all of the plants and also on the edges of all of the path because it kind of makes it look a little bit more layered and cool. It takes a while to go through and finish all of this terrain paint because the lot is so big. And as I was doing it, I kept finding places that were missing landscaping. So it was kind of a good thing that I went back through and did this because I kept noticing corners where I was like, oh, I didn't finish putting the plants back here. Obviously I had meant to, but it's just so big that there's easy spots to not realize that you've passed over, right? But with that, the build is essentially complete. So what we're gonna do now is pause for a second and we'll pop back into game and I'll give you that real-time tour. You've also probably seen in this speed build that there's a bunch of animals around here. It's because at this point in the video, the business is open. So there's a bunch of horses who are here. They're like in the goat area. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay, let's get the game open and I will show you around. So I built this in Chestnut Ridge on this giant empty 64 by 64 lot called Red Roan Field. And drum roll please, okay? The finished product costs 148,805 simoleons. And on the gallery, it's called the Ranch and Animal Sanctuary. I really wasn't sure what to call it. Oh god, it also uses more packs than I thought. Oh no, I thought I had like 6. Okay, well, that's fine. It actually has 12. So double is much worse than I expected. But we're gonna place it down furnished on this lot. And I wanna show you what I would do if I was gonna try and play in this business, because unfortunately you can't upload businesses with the business activities. So to set it up, you have to do a little bit of extra work on your part. I did also upload a sim for it though. So this is the Ka-Chow household. His name is Cash McQueen. And he has a dog, a cat, and 3 horses that he runs this place with. So I would just grab him off the gallery. You can type free real estate on. That's just a money cheat so you can buy any lot without worrying about budget. You'll move them in. Oh God, the weather is terrible. Okay, I'm using UI cheats right now to cheat the weather. So you can do that too if you have that mod. This way you can see it a little bit better. And then you're gonna go to register your small business. I'm gonna call it Roan Ranch, like after the lot name, but you can name it whatever. The big thing is that you're gonna have to set up business activities. So I personally would suggest these. The first is care for animals, and that means that the Sims who visit will feed, clean, and care for all of your animals, including your cat and dog, your horses, your mini goats, your chickens, everything. Then I would add in horses, play, and learn. This will mean that other Sims will bring their horses, and those horses will use the balls, they'll use the horse barrels, all that stuff. Tend garden is important because you want them to attend to your crops, but I would make sure you pick tend garden and not tend and harvest garden, because you don't want them to steal your crops. You want them to water your crops, but you want to harvest them so that you can sell them, right? I would also put on attend classes and lectures because you're trying to host like horse classes, stuff like that. And then I added browse and buy items, but this one's a little bit more up in the air because you could swap this. They will browse and buy items even if you don't have the lot activity on. They're just more likely to do it with the lot activity. But you could switch this to like summer activities. You could make them fish at the pond. So you can kind of switch this last one out for whatever makes the most sense for you. And then I would also add onto your target customers, you're gonna wanna get a supervised customer, horses, and add that too, and then you're all set. So this will work now if you play as the business or if you come and visit. Is that a, oh my God, what are you doing here? But this will work if you want to run the business or if you want to attend it as a customer. And now I want to show you around real quick. So this is kind of like a top-down overview of the whole business. So you're walking in right here from this entrance. You can come over here. This is the barn with like the main building, the bar, the classroom, all that. You can also get to the garden and to the greenhouse from here. This pond they can fish in. There's some bee boxes. Over to the right, we have all of the goats and sheep. This is the chicken coop. This part is where we have the shop. And then in the back, this whole back half is for the horses. There's like an indoor stable section for the horses and an outdoor training section for the horses. And now I want to zoom in and kind of show you around up close. So you'll walk in through this little sign. Your Sims will check in and pay right here at this ticket kiosk. And don't worry, it does not break in the rain. You can throw horseshoes over here if you want. Around the side, I also have a fire pit and stuff. This is where the mailbox goes for your Sim because they will live here. And you'll see around the lot, I've put a few things like these flocks of wild birds and the rabbits from cottage living. So there's a bunch of birds just around. There's probably a bunny somewhere. Yeah, look, there's a bunny over here. So you'll see those kind of out and about. The pond has a bunch of ducks and also an alligator. So watch out for that. Everybody can fish in this pond if they want to. And I would probably go inside from here. And on the inside, you can sit over here and eat if you'd like. You can play the piano. There's like some dog bowls and stuff for your Sims pets. You can also come further forward and go into this classroom that we had talked about. And then in the way back, we have a bar and like kind of a little kitchen space. So you could cook a cake and have a birthday party here if you wanted. Over on this side, we have the public bathroom. This has toilet stalls for everybody, plus a baby changing table. And then through this little hallway, this is the staircase that goes up into the apartment. So you can see we have the living room. They've got like a handmade tea set. There's a little dining table, a small bathroom. We have a really big kitchen, honestly, upstairs up here. I think maybe the cutest teens bedroom ever. I love this laundry day rug with that bed from Horse Ranch. And then we have this primary bedroom too. They also have a desk with a typewriter. And that's the whole main living space. From here, you could go out into the garden. And I have pre-planted this with loads of plants. So there's eggplants, we've got mushrooms, there's lettuce, we got pumpkins and watermelon. There's another bunny to help you out over here. And I did use the greenhouse kit quite a bit because I wanted to use the greenhouse kit windows. Inside, we have more of like the regular plants. So there's loads of things like flowers in this section. We have some fruits like strawberries and grapes. There's like potatoes and onions over here. There's also a couple flower arranging tables. And so inside of this greenhouse, you can teach gardening classes. And I completely forgot, but you can also teach flower arranging classes in here. This is fully functional. We do have some extra bees if you wanted to like collect honey and beeswax. And then you might come over this way. Oh my God, the goats have escaped. Oh, I guess the door is not locked off the gallery. Uh-oh. Okay, so if you get it off the gallery, lock the gate for the goats. But in here, there are a ton of mini goats and mini sheep. They can eat all of the prairie grass. They can also eat from this thing. So you're gonna wanna fill that. And I'm sorry, it looks like it comes with horse poop off the gallery. That's my bad, I didn't delete it. But the goats have like a stable to sleep in. And then next to them, we have the chicken coop area. I have this pre-filled with chickens as well. I would make sure you lock this door too if I were you. And then in here, this is the little shop. So there's like a little sign in front of it. You can come inside. This is where you can sell stuff. These are actual functional sales tables. There's like a clothing rack that is for sale. That's pretend. There's an extra bathroom. This one has a shower too, which is helpful if you come here as a visitor. There is a woohoo bush in the back if you need it, and just some places to sit. I really tried to make sure we had bathrooms in every corner of the lot. So there's one inside here. We've got some inside of this building. There's another one back here in like this horse pasture area. So you can access this bathroom in kind of like a water heater storage area. Oh my God, there's more horse poop. You can tell I play tested it. It's fine if it goes on the gallery dirty, right? But the horses have like food and the horse balls and stuff over here. And then through this gate, this is where you can access all the horse training area. And there's another bathroom. This is like the bathroom outdoor stall from Horse Ranch. So you've got one everywhere. Easy access no matter where you are if you need to pee. And that is the fully finished product. I realize it is like so big, but I am really proud of how it turned out. I think it's beautiful here. I had a lot of fun making this, and hopefully you enjoyed watching it as well. Like I said before, I'll link my second channel down below where I post all of my live stream VODs if you want to watch the full thing back. It did take me like 2 days and like 7.5 hours to build, but if for some reason you wanted to watch the whole thing, I'll link that for you. I'll also link my Twitch streams too, because I'm live over there every day. And I think with that, I'm gonna wrap it up right here, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. Okay, I said that. I'm actually not live on Sundays. I'm live every day but Sunday. So I'll be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, just not Sundays.